All right, you guys, we're back and we're live. Two whole live feeds this week. Can you believe it? Oh my goodness. Trying to keep up with YouTube as much as possible. If you haven't noticed, we're doing a lot more lives. We're doing a lot more pre-recorded content, shorts, all of the fun things, because YouTube is just where it's at. So as you're logging on tonight, say hello. Let me know where you're logging on from. I'd love to see that. What's up? What's up? If you're logging on Instagram, come on over to YouTube. We are going to be on YouTube, usually in London, so we'll have to be up for this. Oh, awesome. Or are you saying you're in the US? Okay, got it. All right, guys, if you're logging on Instagram, click the link tree in my bio and head on over to YouTube because it's a better experience there. I can't screen share and stuff like that on Instagram, but I can on YouTube. So North Dakota, Albuquerque. Awesome. New York. Just a few hours from me. Just a few hours from me. Philly, another one just a few hours from me. Hi again from Chicago. Love it. Love it, love it. We're doing things a little bit different tonight. I'm not doing any previews or anything this weekend. Good evening, cuties. But we are going to do a Q&A. So if you guys have questions and you want to start typing them in right now, you can. I've got a couple to go over. But then I'm also going to go into a couple of supplement review kind of things. So I thought I'd start giving out some nutrition and diet and training and supplement info and things like that. Now that I'm coaching and I have that kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I have that background to do it. So Boston, Orlando, Wisconsin, Baltimore. I love it. I love it. All over the place. Fantastic. So as we get rolling into this, if you did not see it today on my Instagram, I announced that we have a brand new partner for our YouTube channel again. So as you know, I announced this last week that Liquid Sun Rayz is now one of our partners. We also now have Prozis as one of our partners. So if you're not familiar with them, they are the largest supplement nutrition company out of Europe. There's several of our ladies here in the States that already use a lot of their products. They actually sponsored Cuties Conquering the Stage this past year, so just a bunch of stuff. And that's what kind of got me on their radar. I started using their products and things like that and realized that they actually have some really good stuff. If you've never been to their site before, they literally have everything you could possibly need as far as supplementation is concerned. They have activewear, they have foam rollers. They literally have everything. It's almost like an Amazon for sports and nutrition stuff. So definitely check them out. And here's the thing. So people always ask, why are they different from another company? If you guys didn't know, so here in the US, whenever you put supplements out, they don't have to be approved by anybody. They don't have to be FDA approved or anything like that. A lot of them are, third party tested and things like that, but they're not, they can put proprietary blend on their supplement. They can put whatever they want to in it. There's been lots of issues with lawsuits and things like that for that reason. In Europe, it's not like that. They have specific standards that they have to stick to in order to get their supplements approved and even put on the market. And one of the things that Prozis does too is that everything is made in-house. They have it either made there in their actual warehouse in their factory, or they have partners that they work with that they have everything made from. So you're not getting something from some random wholesaler that supplies everybody else the same products. One of the reasons why I liked them so much is because I don't know about you guys. How many of you guys out there, go ahead and type into the comments if you have issues, if you have GI issues, meaning gastrointestinal issues, whenever you eat protein powders, if you eat artificial flavorings and fillers and things like that. Do you have issues? Because I do. I think a lot of us in the fitness industry have these issues where you eat some of these things and it just makes you feel worse. Protein bars are supposed to be there for convenience, to get the supplements in. Yeah, there you go, Jess. Yeah, absolutely. Lack thereof when it comes to going to the bathroom. Yeah, that thing too. So again, one of the things that really got me on the Prozis train was I started eating their stuff and I was like, man, I don't feel like shit anymore. I was like, Love from Palm Beach. I love it. I love it. So yeah, I don't feel like crap anymore. And the reason why is, again, when they put things into their foods or whatever it is that they're selling, it has to be approved and it has to be pure. So to look for GMP certification. There you go. There you go. But so that was one of the reasons I felt like there's a whole lot less fillers and crap inside of their stuff, unlike what you'd get at like Walmart here in the US. So if you've not tried them out, give them a shot. You've got a discount code right here. They're really reasonable when it comes to pricing, and just try some of their stuff and see what you think. They have some phenomenal bars and like just protein granola and treats and things like that. That's a great way to just start and see if you like what they do. And then you can go from there. If you like it, keep going, right? Grenade bars definitely cause fantastic. That's great. So yeah, so this is the code right here, the QR code in the box for you guys, and then you can use my discount code for Cuties10 to get yourself a discount as well. They always are doing little promotions and stuff too. I think they still have they've been around for 17 years. I think they still have their 17th anniversary going on right now. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's still going on. They were doing a big sale promo for that. So go check out their site. Like I said, they've got everything you could possibly need there. I will be on a lot of these videos and things. I will be highlighting some of the products and things like that that I use from them. I'm going to do that tonight as well. But before we get into that, I do want to start getting us moving on the questions and things like that as well. So this, hopefully when I bring up the first couple of questions that were sent in, this will kind of get you guys rolling, and you can ask questions here in the comments. Go ahead and put it into the comments. And when I get to it, I'll answer your question. So we do this a lot with Behind the Bikini, but also I get different questions too because I do the show reviews and things like that. So I wanted to pull up a couple of the ones that came in regard to basically what we talked about with the live last night when we were talking about fullness and conditioning and things like that when it comes to different stage looks. So the first one, this was a question that came based on a comment that came in from the channel from yesterday. Do judges like different levels of leanness based on the competitor? So the short answer in this is yes, but I'm going to kind of explain this a little bit more. So what we were talking about last night was we were talking about the fullness that Ashley brought to the stage and everything for Girl Power. And, in general, Ashley tends to be a little bit leaner. Like when you look at the results from the Olympia, she was the leanest one in the top 3, right? So she does tend to bring that kind of a look, and she does get rewarded for that. However, she brought a much fuller package, softer package to Girl Power, and they rewarded her for that as well. But she also got the feedback that she needed to be leaner. So the question is okay, so where's the criteria here? And, what do they want to see from you going on stage, right? The long and short of this is that the criteria is the same across the board, but the criteria is going to look different on each person. Okay. So let's take Jennifer Dory for an example, right? When she won her first Olympia title, she was very full and round and bubbly, and that was what they liked on her, right? The following year, she came back and she came in leaner, more conditioned. She came in harder, and she lost the title. On her, that was not a good look. On somebody else, it might have been their best look. But for her, it was overshooting the criteria. It was going too far in the conditioning level, and they took her title and gave it to Maureen, who was much softer and fuller. So you go back to, okay, well, they actually rewarded the softer and fuller look, which is what they rewarded the year before. So it's still the criteria, right? Jen just overshot the criteria that particular year. Okay. Then she came back the following year, won her title back, and she was fuller and she was rounder because she went back towards the actual criteria. So you see what I'm saying? The criteria is the criteria is the criteria. It's going to look different on each person and how they actually bring their physique in. But regardless, they're going to get rewarded for the criteria, right? Does that make sense? I just worded that because I know that sounded confusing. That because Ashley does not have as much muscle as the others which is why she comes in leaner. I know she has a lot of muscle, so confused compared to maybe Laura Lee. So for Ashley, I think that her frame just looks best when she's a little bit leaner in general. For me, it's the midsection more than anything else. Like the way that Ashley's glutes are, She looks phenomenal, whether she's a little bit fuller or whether she's a little bit softer. I don't think there's anything wrong with her glutes at either look. For Ashley, I think where the issue comes into play is with her midsection more than anything else, right? So if she's a little bit tighter, her midsection is going to be a little bit tighter. It's a better look, in my opinion. If she's not quite tight enough, then her midsection tends to look a little bit watery. It looks a little bit blown out. She has a little bit of lower ab distension, things like that. So in my opinion, I think she looks better when she's leaner because of her midsection, personally. That's my 2 cents on that regard. So with Laura Lee, she just has a lot of muscle. So if Laura Lee fills out that muscle too much, she's going to look bigger. And she overshoots the criteria in size because of the fullness of her muscle. So she has to pull the muscle down in order to be able to stay in the criteria, right? What's the question here? Confusing, but still made sense. Sorry. I know a lot of the stuff that we talk about, we're talking about criteria, can be very confusing if you're not in the sport. It's just like any other sport. When you get really in depth with what's going on in the scoring and things like that, it's confusing. My husband is big into wrestling, and I've tried so hard to learn. I'm just like, no, I try, but to me, it's just confusing. I don't know what they're freaking doing as far as their choke holds and crap. And I try, but I don't know. And it's the same thing when we're talking about this stuff. Until you're actually in it, involved in it, a lot of this stuff can sound like a completely different language, right? It can sound like a completely different language. But at the end of the day, I think that the athletes look their best in certain, at certain levels of conditioning, but that conditioning has to be in the criteria. So, when we're talking about the Olympia, like this past year, Ashley was a little bit leaner than the other top 3, right? And that's why she ended up in third versus the other 2 that beat her that were fuller, because they were closer to the criteria, right? So even though that's a great look for Ashley, it's still not quite the perfect look for the criteria. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, they're still trying to get to that criteria spot. And sometimes it can be confusing too, because sometimes nobody hits the criteria perfectly, but somebody still has to win. Somebody still has to win. They can't just say, well, nobody wins today because you didn't hit the magic criteria points today. Right. So there's that. Okay. Let's go ahead. I'll go ahead and go into this one right here too, since we've got questions coming in. Let's show this one right here. Okay, so any tips to improve pelvic tilt for a killer front pose? Mobility. If you're one of my posing clients, then I tell you stretching and mobility work is king. You should be doing it every single day. So you can use the yoga wheel. I mean, these are all things we've talked about before, but yoga wheel is great. But a lot of times when we're talking about the pelvic tilt, it's not even that your lower back is tight. Sometimes it's your glutes and your hamstrings and your quads that are tight. So if you're not getting in and you're not doing mobility work on your entire body, it's going to affect how you're able to tilt. Now, here's the other thing too. This is something we just corrected on Yulia as well. So some people over tilt. Some people actually over tilt on that pelvic tilt. When you do that, a lot of times what will happen is your lower abs will pooch out because you've got that elongated front abs, right? And in doing that, then your lower abs have a tendency to pooch out unless you pull them super tight and can hold them super tight with your muscle control, which is why we do vacuums. Okay. Vacuums, while they can help make your waist a little bit smaller, they're not really to shrink your waist. Vacuums are more about muscle control. They're more about being able to hold your core in tight. Okay. So you should also be doing vacuums. That's not really a flexibility thing. That's more of a being able to hold your muscle tight. So you should be able to do that on stage, right? And the more that you do that, the easier the pelvic tilt is going to become as well. So pelvic tilt is probably the hardest thing for most people to do because you got to tilt and you got to twist at the same time. So you need to be stretching. Okay. I do a lot of yoga, like hip opening stretches. I do a lot of foam rolling. I do a lot of dynamic stretching. I do a lot of yoga wheel stuff, things like that. And I still could go further with my flexibility. That's something else you got to realize too. We as women, as we get older, our flexibility suffers as we get older. So we're always fighting against that. We're always fighting against the clock, basically. So the more the older you get, the less flexible that you get. So the more flexibility you've got to try to incorporate mobility work. You got to incorporate, right? So what's the question here? Do you think that criteria for Masters Bikini is different? I noticed at Girl Power this past weekend, the Masters Division Bikini ladies are definitely more muscular. So when it comes to criteria for Masters ladies, this is a question that just came in, so I'll get rid of this right here. No, the criteria is the same. Criteria is the same for Masters as it is for Open. It's the same. The difference is the physiques that are getting on stage. Okay, so going back to what I was saying before about how sometimes people just don't hit the criteria, it's the same thing when it comes to Masters. A lot of times your Masters classes are going to have 5 to 10 girls in it when it comes to pro level. They're really, really good, 40 and over, whatever it might be. But 40 and over bodies, I'm 42, so I'm part of this. 40-year-old bodies look different than 25-year-old bodies, right? It's really hard for people that are in their 40s, women that are in their 40s, to be lean enough and full enough to be able to look the same as somebody that is 25 years old, that's 20 years younger than them, right? It's you're different, you're in different spots of your life, right? So what tends to happen in Masters is they look for the same thing. It's the same criteria, but what you're going to get in Masters is most of the time you're going to get women that have more muscle maturity. So their conditioning level is going to be a little bit higher than what you would see on the Open level. They're going to be a little bit leaner, and they might not be quite as full because it's just not physically possible to do that when you get up into the Masters ages. Now, there are freaks of nature, right? There are women that are in their 40s and 50s that can still hang with the younger girls. There are freaks of nature. That's the beautiful thing about this sport, right? But in general, this is going to be the theme. This is going to be the consensus, right? You're going to see women, as a Masters athlete, you have to come in a little bit leaner in order to get everything to be tight enough. And then from that point, you have to fill it back out, which is hard to do. It's hard to do when when you got that muscle density, you got that muscle maturity. We've talked about Nicole Guggia a few times. She's placed top 5 in the Open, and she's winning Master shows as well. The reason why she's placing top 5 in Open is because she has a really great frame and she's filled it out with some really solid muscle. But when you see her next to the other girls in the Open, she is more muscular. She is denser because she's older and she's built that over time. That's what happens when you get older, right? If you've been bodybuilding for 20 more years than somebody else, I would hope that you're a little bit denser than somebody else that's 20 years younger than you. I would hope you have a little bit more muscle. I would hope that you are a little bit thicker, because if not, then you've not been doing the game right. You know what I mean? It's just part of it. If you've been in the gym longer, you're going to have more density. So the short answer is no, the criteria is not different. The bodies are. Right? The bodies getting on stage are different, right? So sure is a lot. I'm having fun with the process. It's been since 2016. Yeah, I mean, I've been in this sport since 2008, so I can do the whole back in my day. I can do that whole thing, right? Okay, keep the questions coming. These are good. Any other questions you guys go in? I've got another one I'm going to put up. Where's that? There we go. Okay, before I go into this next question, go ahead and keep typing in. I'm going to talk about one of the products that I actually posted on my Instagram earlier today, and that is citrulline right here. Has anybody ever used this? Anybody ever used this? Type into the comments. Tell me if you've used this before. Anybody used it? I'm going to share my screen with this on the site too, and I'll tell you what this does. Let me pull up. Here you go. You can Google it too, which I did that so you guys can see what it actually does. I'm waiting for the site to pop up. There we go. So this is something, you made it to live, yes. So this is something that I use pre-workout. This is for pre-workout, basically. Okay, it's non-stimulant. It doesn't make you feel all jittery or anything like that. What it does do is it increases your blood flow. Okay, increases your blood flow so that when you're actually training, you get a better pump. You have more energy. It doesn't really do much for you if you're doing cardio, because again, it's non-stimulant, but it does help with better pumps and getting that energy and getting the blood flow going and all of that kind of stuff. So I wanted to show you guys this because this is something that I use all the time. If you're having a hard time with mind-muscle connection, like if you're trying to pump glutes or something and you can't really connect your brain to your glutes, take some of this pre-workout. You will feel it. You will feel it. The first time I ever took citrulline, I thought my freaking glutes were going to explode. Now I feel that when I do like my shoulders and my back and things like that, I feel like I'm going to explode because you just get so much blood flow to those areas that you're actually working, right? So this actually is an extract from watermelon. This is a watermelon flavor, but it actually comes from watermelon too. So you can go in and you can Google what it actually is, figure out if this is something that you want to try to use. I always want you to actually research whatever it is that you're putting into your body. Don't just take something because I told you to take it, right? But I'm telling you, if you try this, it will improve your workouts. It'll improve your lifting. Not so much your cardio, but yes to your lifting. So that's my little spiel for the citrulline that I use. Let's pull up another question. Let's see. Here's a good one. So let's go ahead and learning how important it is to stay super. So when I begin posing, do I stand up super straight first, then vacuum, or vacuum first and focus on standing up super straight? So these are two different things. Okay, so you should not be vacuuming on stage. I know this is going to make this even more confusing. You should not be vacuuming on stage. Okay, the vacuuming is to help you, again, control your brain to your body. Vacuuming, you suck up and in, and we don't want to do that because that shows all that rib cage and everything. Jess, this is something I've talked to you about. You got to pull your rib cage together, right? So you don't actually want to vacuum because that's going to make your rib cage play out. It's going to make you look like you're shallow under your rib cage. The vacuums are there to train your brain to hold your belly tight. Okay. So once you know how to do that, once you're on stage, it's more about just holding it tight. You're not sucking up and in. Okay. And you should be holding your belly tight all the time. All the time. The only time that you are allowed to release your abs when you're on stage is when you're in your back pose and you're turned around. So it's not a question of should we do this first or that first. It's a question of you should be doing this all the time. Okay, so you should be holding your abs tight all the time. Now, depending on the person, some people have to zip their rib cage in. Just your one that I've told you, you have to zip your rib cage in. Pulling your rib cage in is literally taking your rib cage and pulling it in, right? I don't know if you can, they can see me on Instagram. I don't know if they can see me here. So let me hide this real quick. Yep, no vacuums, you get told you to your ribby, right? So with the rib cage here, you zip your rib cage in. This is not my hands moving. This is my rib cage moving. So it's out versus in, right? So that plus holding your lower abs, not vacuuming, just like Gracie said, or you get told you're too ribby. That's right. So, there's the Max Muscle show a couple weeks ago. One of the girls that was in the running for the overall, I think one of the reasons why she did not win it is because she was sucking in and she was all ribs. So they really do penalize the ribbiness, okay? And that comes from sucking in too hard. So again, the vacuums are there for an exercise, but they are not there to actually do your poses. Is it sort of like you've been punched in the stomach? Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Punched in the stomach. I've heard laughing, like to laugh and pull your rib cage in. I've heard it's almost like pushing down and through your vagina. I mean, that one connected to my brain. But yeah. So yeah, I would say that punched in the stomach is a good way to say it. If that helps you connect to it, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully that makes sense. You do need to stand up straight, but again, you need to pull that lower ab in and you need to tilt the pelvis back. Okay, and zip the rib cage. This is not hard at all. Posing is not difficult at all. Do all the things all at once. All of the things all at once. Just so you know. Let's see. I got another question. Let me find it. Oh, good. I'm glad that makes more sense. Here it is. So this is another one going back to again, from what we were talking about last night on the live. Do you think the softer, fuller judging preference will transfer over to nationals, or is it just a pro thing? Again, I'm going to go back to the criteria is the criteria is the criteria, right? So yes, fuller definitely crosses over to national level. However, they are still going to try to pick the girl that's closest to the criteria, which means you might have somebody that's a little bit more on the lean side. Okay, it's just a matter of who shows up that day. But you got to remember with nationals, again, think about it like football. Nationals is college football, right? Pros is the NFL. It's very, very rare that you have somebody in college football immediately go and be competitive in the NFL and be starting in the NFL. Very, very rare, okay? Because it's a process to move from one level to another. So the same concept here. It's a process to move from nationals to the pro league. There are very few pros that come out after winning their pro card and just blow it away. Very few. Most of them go into an off season where they do like one show to see where they have to like fix themselves and like improve themselves to come back and be competitive, that kind of thing. It's very rare that you see brand new pros come out and do anything. So what that means is when you go to the national stage, you've got a couple of girls, that win the overall or whatever it might be, that are closest to the criteria, and everybody else isn't. Everybody else isn't. So all of those people are mixed into one stage, and the judges are just trying to pick the girl that gets the closest to that magical undefined box. Okay? So the short answer is yes, the softer fuller thing does transition over to nationals, but you got different bodies. Just like I was talking about with masters. You just got different bodies up there than you do on the pro level, right? So it's going to end up looking different. Okay? So that's why you can't, like, I see this all the time where girls are like trying to put together their own look based on how the last show went. It just doesn't work like that. Every show is different. Every show is different because, again, it's a different group of people on the judging panel and on the stage, and they're trying to get you closest to the criteria, right? They're trying to get you closest to the criteria. So I think sometimes the other thing, too, is that people think softer and fuller means easier, and it doesn't. Softer and fuller is actually hard to do and look like you're still in shape. It's actually really hard to do and still look like you're in shape, which is why, again, going back to masters, why it's really hard for a masters female to look softer and fuller and not look like she's out of shape. Because the skin starts to droop. You don't look as tight. You don't look as you just don't look as good, period. You just don't look as good, right? Does that make sense? So at the end of the day, you still got to come in shape. And you got to come in as full as you can without looking like you're out of shape. It's a really hard balance. This is why you got to have a coach that knows what they're doing, that has a good eye, that can tell you if you're ready, or can tell you if you need to push a little harder. I'm always a fan of coming in a little bit leaner because then you can fill it out with food. I'll say this. You guys know we work with Yulia and everything too, and I just saw her proposing today. She looks phenomenal right now because they're pushing food. Like the best I've seen her was today because they're pushing food. But she was super conditioned going into her last show, and now they're being able to fill her out and help her hold that fullness. She looks so good. She looks so good right now. She's round and full and bubbly and all of that. But she had to get super conditioned first, right? That roundness, that fullness, that bubbliness doesn't come if you're not in shape. You have to be in shape first. And then you can push the food, and the food is what fills you out. So, and that's exactly, Jess, that's why you hire coaches. And Jess, you're a good example. You're super lean. That's why I'm Jess's coach, by the way. I'm like, that's why I can push food with you, because we can fill you out. I love it when a girl is in shape because I can feed her more. I can feed her. I can feed her till the cows come home, So that's where you get that fullness and that roundness from. It's from being in shape and then filling it out. When do you think working with a trainer is useful? So clarification on that question. Do you mean a coach or do you mean a trainer? Because when I think trainer, I think of somebody in the gym. So before I answer this, go ahead and comment in, clarify, do you mean a coach or do you mean an actual trainer, a physical trainer in the gym? Which one do you mean? Okay, so a trainer in the gym, it's going to be person dependent. I think one of the ways you can really use to the best of the ability a trainer in the gym is to learn how to train properly. That's first and foremost. I see so many people that don't know how to actually train. They're not actually training correctly. So getting a good trainer that can actually put you through workouts and correct your form and make sure that you're doing everything right, huge, 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 right? Beyond that, if you're trying to be like a pro athlete or something like that, get a trainer who specializes in your sport. I have this happen a lot when I have girls come to me to start coaching with me. They have trainers in the gym, and those trainers specialize in powerlifting or CrossFit or strongman or whatever. Those are different than bodybuilding. Those are different specialties. So they're going to try to train you differently than what I want you to train. Right? I want you to train for aesthetics. They want you to train for strength. So if you're going to get a trainer in the gym, you need to be with somebody that's going to push you for your specific sport. Okay? And if they can do that, phenomenal. It's always a good idea to have an expert pushing you, 100%. You just got to make sure you got the right one, right? You just got to make sure that you got a trainer who knows what they're doing for your desired outcome. Okay? Again, if they're just a regular gym trainer and they don't know anything about bodybuilding, that might not be the best fit. They can teach you how to train and how to do it properly. You definitely need that. If you don't know how to train properly, you need somebody to show you. Okay. But then once it becomes, more like, okay, I'm training for a specific purpose, make sure that you get a good coach, get a good trainer that can train you for a specific purpose. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. As far as insider tips to get tie-ins at the show, get lean enough. You got to get lean enough. But the other part of that too is, again, going back to muscle. Okay. If you don't have enough muscle in your legs, your hamstrings, your glutes, you're not going to have tie-ins no matter how lean you get. Okay. You're not going to have tie-ins no matter how lean you get if you don't have the muscle to support it. So it's, to get to that level, let's say you have the muscle, right? To get to that level, you got to push yourself past where you think you do. It's hard. As a female, it's hard to get the tie-ins to come in, right? And a lot of that, again, comes down to having the muscle to support it in the first place. If you don't, you're just going to start getting softer and softer and softer from the back. You're just not going to show anything from the back if you don't have the muscle there to begin with. So, let's see, it's because trainers have you do deadlifts and bar lunges, which can make you wasted. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, you just got to have somebody that has the right specificity as your trainer, right? Like all things, patience is key, 100%. Putting the work in. Putting in the work in the gym, putting in the work in the kitchen. Those are the two things right there. And sleeping. A lot of people don't sleep. Sleep is huge, you guys. I have to have this conversation with clients all the time. Your recovery is where you grow. If you're not recovering, you're not building muscle. Make sure that you sleep. Make sure that you get your sleep in. Okay? I'm going to show one more product. And I'll wait to see if any other questions come in. Something that you all should be taking is vitamin D. Okay? This is vitamin D right here. I got it right here. If you're not taking vitamin D, you're likely deficient in vitamin D if you're not taking it. Okay? Unless you're outside all the time, which is not most people. So you need to be taking vitamin D if you're not already. When I took my labs after prep this past year, my vitamin D was low. I was supplementing with vitamin D at that time, but my vitamin D was still low. So they recommended that I just double my vitamin D intake, which is what I did. And then when I went back and did my labs again, my vitamin D was perfect. So sometimes you do have to just take more. So I just doubled my dose. And again, this is going to be person specific, so I don't want to get into actual dosing and things like that. But you need to be taking vitamin D if you're not. Okay, it just helps with everything. And most people, I think it's 4 in 10 Americans are deficient in vitamin D. So almost half. I think it could be even higher than that. I think they said it was 4 in 10 or something like that. But you read me to I don't understand what that says. 2/5. You read me 2/5? I don't know what that meant. Sorry, you might have to retype that. I don't know what that comment meant. So if you're not taking vitamin D already, this is one that I absolutely recommend everybody take is vitamin D, 100%. Right? Okay, let me get rid of that comment. Sorry, I got the one comment. Oh, there it is. My coach always pushes me for lean for the very fact he pushes food at the end. Absolutely, 100%. I think Britney Gaspie can win the Olympia. Thoughts? Maybe too much of an X-frame, amazing physique. So my 2 cents is I think she has potential. I don't think that she can win it this year, but I think she has potential. I think everybody has potential. It's just a matter of how far you push it. I think that she's got a great shape. I think she's got a great look. But in my opinion, she's still kind of a newer pro. She's only had a really, really one season under her belt. So give her a minute, right? I think she has time to fully develop her physique. I think she has time to fully develop her look. I think she has time to fully develop her presence and everything. I think one of the reasons why she's doing Pittsburgh is so that she can get next to some of these bigger names and see how she stacks up. So anything is possible. I don't think so this year, but hey, let's see how she develops. I think she definitely has potential. You called me out on the vitamin D. Oh, I called you on the vitamin D deficiency. Labs came back low and started to take vitamin D. There you go. See, I did. I got it. I got your comment now. Yes. Maureen was just here in Boston. She looks so good too. Yeah, from what I've been seeing on Maureen's Instagram and things like that, she looks great. For those of you that have been around for a few years, I've been doing this. I called Maureen long before anybody else did. I called it long before anybody else did. I was like, you got to watch out for this girl. She's moving up. And like I said, her first Olympia, she was I think she was in the top 10 her first Olympia. I think she was in the top 10. And then she moved up to the top 4 or whatever it was. And then she won it. Like, boom, 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 that fast, So I definitely don't count her out coming back and trying to win the title back. I think she definitely could do it. She just needed to come in a little bit tighter than she was this past Olympia, and she would have been right there. Yep, Maureen looks great. Any other questions you guys have? This was good. Any other questions that you want me to cover before we finish out tonight? I'm going to go ahead and show our Prozis code again. So if you missed it, it's also in the description box, in my description box here on YouTube. So you can click on it and get over there. She's so petite and jacked. Yep. She's got great proportions. She's got a beautiful look. That front row Arnold's 2022. Prejudging, it was all of Maureen. In person, she's just spectacular. She's a beautiful girl. She's got great shape, great frame, great look all over the place. Yeah. 100%. The Olympic were today. Who do you think would be the top 5? Oh, I can't say. No, I don't do that. I don't put out those predictions until we get through the year. So there's way too many variables. We just came off the Arnold. You know what I mean? And everybody would have been wrong if they try to do predictions based on what people looked at the Olympia, because Laura Lee was outside of whatever place she was, and then she ends up coming. I can't remember. All these years kind of flood together. I think she was 5th, whatever she was with the Olympia. Then she came in and won the Arnold. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of game to be played. There is a lot of game to be played this year. I'm not even gonna try. Who's your personal favorite bikini athlete? I don't know if I have a favorite. If I had to pick a girl that I would most want to maybe look like overall, Maureen, 100%. I think she's beautiful. I love her frame, which is funny because she's like half my size. I think she's gorgeous. I think she's got a great frame. I don't know. I just personally really like her a lot. As far as her shape is concerned, there's a lot of these girls that I kind of know on a high ICU kind of level, but I don't know as personal people and things like that. So I'm not saying like I like her as a person. Like from what I know of her, she's super sweet. She's always been nice to me. But I just like her shape. I like her look. I like everything about her. Like when it comes to her whole persona on stage. So that would be my choice. That would be my choice. So that's my 2 cents. Any other questions? I'll give it like 1 more minute. If anybody has anything else they want to add, or if you just want to comment on some of the stuff that I've mentioned. It's super physiques and how smart they are. Yeah, I mean, like I said, a lot of these girls, I know them in passing. I'm not really good friends with them, so I don't know like their personalities and things like that and stuff like that. I'm just talking about in general for the sport. I like her look the best. That's my 2 cents. You're welcome. Do you guys like this kind of thing where we do like lives like this? I feel like on weeks where like we don't have another show to preview, because all we have is, I think it's Korea this weekend. When we don't have other shows to preview, we could do something along this line where we just answer questions and stuff. Cool. Yeah. So next week is Pittsburgh. I am still booking hair and makeup for Pittsburgh, also New York Pro the following week. I'm going to do my best about lives between Pittsburgh and New York. I'm going up to see my family. My family lives in upstate New York. So I'm going up to see my family between the 2 shows. I did the same thing last year. This is why I'm prefacing this, because the signal sucks. For those of you that don't know anything about upstate New York sucks. It just sucks. I'm glad that I grew up there and I'm glad I got out. But the signal is terrible. So I'm going to do my very, very best to still do lives and things like that for you guys. My parents' Wi-Fi is pretty decent as long as I'm in a good area of the house. So I'm just hoping I can do some live feeds while I'm there. I'm only there for a week, so it's not a big deal. But just like prefacing all this for you guys, I'm gonna do my best while I'm there. But yeah, Pittsburgh should be a really fun show. So if you guys are going, or if you need to book hair and makeup, or if you know somebody that needs to book hair and makeup, look me up. I'll be there from Thursday to Sunday, so I'm there for the whole show. Trying to think if there's anything else. What do you think about competitors who don't seem to be very competitive, but they still compete? So bring that question to me for another one, and I'll answer that one, because then I'll be here for a while answering that one. So bring that one to me at the next one, okay? Hello Calorie Day. Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else. Oh, I did put a Sundays with Sean onto the calendar for this week as well. I know it's really last minute, but whatever the date is, the 4th. So if you are local and wanted to do the group class, I do have group classes coming Sunday, and we have another one set up for the 26th of May too. I decided to go ahead and do it. I know it's Memorial Day weekend, but we had a few people that wanted it, so I went ahead and did it anyway. So it's on there. So we got this weekend and then May 26th for Sundays with Sean group classes. So just keep that in mind. Last thing, I talked about this last night too, so I'll go ahead and throw this up here really quickly before I finish out. Suit Consultations. We have a brand new webpage for Suit Consultations. If you go to this, you'll actually see a video welcome. You'll see a whole bunch of examples, what we do, how we do our suits, all those kinds of things, all in one spot. So if you've ever wondered about, getting a suit from me or how we put them all together and how we do them, here you go. And it's free Suit Consultation sign up too if you want to just talk with me about it too. So that's that QR code right there. And I think that'll do it for us. That puts us right at the 45-minute mark here for this evening. So reach out if you have any questions. Feel free to put questions in the comments as well, and share this video with your friends if you think it would help them. And that's it. We'll be back again for a live. We're going to do Behind the Bikini tomorrow. So we have Behind the Bikini coming out tomorrow. So be ready for that. And then we will do live next week to preview Pittsburgh as well. So with that, hope you guys have a great night, and we'll see you back here next week. All right. Good.